Hey everyone, Mark Klein here. Over the last couple winter months we've been building this logging trailer. I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to show you start to finish how I built this trailer. The only thing I purchased was the crane and the winch. Everything else has been recycled materials, Craigslist, auctions, rummage sales. I've been collecting this for 3 years to try and put this trailer together. So here's a picture of where I got my idea from. So this picture is the DR trailer. It sells for $2,400 on the internet. I'm not going to spend $2,400. I'm making this trailer for $750. The projects on my channel, they're all going to be this type of project where I make something out of nothing. So if that's what you like to watch, that's what you like to see, then stay tuned to my channel. Please subscribe. So hit the like button if you like this video. You're watching the Amberg Acres channel.
I wonder if my intro should be more like Peter Mckinnon.
What's up, everybody? We got this great video for you today. We're going to be putting together this thing. I don't know what this thing is, but we're just going to be putting it together.
Mark, wake up! Mark, wake up! I thought you had all this work to do.
Boy, that was a weird dream. Holy cow, I guess I better get some work done here. All right, so we're building a trailer, right? Here we go. Thanks for coming back. We filmed that a couple weeks ago to insert into this video. I've been watching Peter Mckinnon for a while, and one thing I've learned from watching Peter is I can't make videos like Peter. But the stuff I can do is I can build stuff. So that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to build you a trailer. So let's get started. So what I did is I pre-cut all this channel up. This is C channel. It was old pallet racking that the guy couldn't use because it was bent up. So I got it pretty cheap, and that's what we're going to make this trailer out of. So I cut these outer ones, these outer pieces here. Those are 7 feet long. These inner pieces are 19 inches. Evenly spaced them. You can put more if you want, but it doesn't need to have more. There's 5 of them all together. So what I'm going to do now is I just tack this together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld these top seams here. And I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do the other side and weld these top seams. And then we'll come back and we'll weld a heavy weld into this corner here. These inside corners. All right, so I need to jump into my welding gear. So when you're welding, stick weld or wire weld or whatever, you always want to be covered up. You can get some really nasty sunburn on your arms and chest and wherever if you're not covered with good gear. So let's get this welded up here. You got that all welded up. Now we're gonna stand it up on end and weld in these corners here. All right, so I got it flipped up here, and we're gonna weld right in this seam here. And we're going to do what's called a 3-pass fillet weld. So the first pass is going to be right in the root. Second pass will be down on the main piece of steel. The third pass will be on the cross member. That's called a 3-pass fillet weld. Okay, so I got that first pass welded in there. I'll bring you in a little closer, maybe you can see it better. Okay, so now I'm going to weld the second pass down onto the main piece of steel. Okay, so I got that second pass in there. Bring you in a little closer so you can see it. So what I did there is I overlapped onto the main steel and up onto the weld that I previously had made. So now I'm going to do a third pass up onto this cross member and down onto the weld that I just did. So there you go. That's a 3-pass fillet weld. Here's a closer look. That's not going anywhere. That ain't gonna break. If anything breaks, the steel will break before that weld will break. Alright, so we're gonna continue. We're gonna do both sides of each one of these. All the way down, flip it over, do the other side. There you have it. 3-pass fillet welds. It ain't gonna go anywhere. Good and solid frame. That's what we needed. I got her all welded up. So the only place I'm going to grind on top here because there's other pieces that are going to go on top here. So I'm just going to grind off these welds here on top. Always have your eye stuff on. Alright, there you have it. So now we're going to spin this around and I got to do these ends yet over here. I have to weld up this seam right here on the ends. Okay, I'm going to try a vertical up. I haven't done a vertical up in years. So let's see how that works. Okay, vertical up, here we go. Vertical up. I'm doing a little J pattern with my stick. I'm just kind of going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down to get the stick out of the puddle, come back into the puddle, out of the puddle, back into the puddle. Alright, so this bad boy is welded solid. This ain't going anywhere. So now we got a good solid frame to start with. Next step, we got to make the brackets for that go on top here. Okay, so these pieces I pre-cut to 22 inches. So they're going to get bolted on here because I want to make this so that I can remove these here and then at the base of the trailer could be used for something else someday. So I'm not going to weld these on. I'm just going to take and I'm going to drill a hole through here and I'm going to bolt them on. So I laid these all out. These are about 16 3/4 inches on center from gap to gap there. That's going to be the length of my log that I'm going to cut for my firewood. And I left about a 4-inch gap in between them. Okay, that's going to give me space for my chainsaw blade to come down in here and cut. Okay, so I'm going to cut through the log. So before I weld or do anything with the hitch and the wheels and all that, and I got this sitting on a flat surface, I want to make my sides. I want to get this all bolted on. We talked about bolting these pieces on. So that's what I'm doing here, is I got the holes all drilled in the plates and in the rails, and now I'm going to weld these tubes on here to make the sides for this trailer. Okay, so what I did was I made the first one here. This is my pattern. Once I had that laid out, now I'm going to lay another one up next to it. So I have the piece all cut out already. Okay, I cut drilled a hole and cut the edges. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So all I'm doing is I'm setting this up against the side here of my pattern. Putting that on there. Putting a little clamp on it to hold it. And I'm taking the tube. I cut the tubes at an angle. Okay. And I'm putting that down in this notch that I cut out. Right like that. Okay. And I'm using this piece of plywood just as a spacer because that's about what the space is down here at the bottom. So I'm putting that piece of plywood up here at the top. And I'm taking my welding clamp. I'm putting my welding clamp in the pipe like that there. And that's actually holding them two pieces together. And I get that lined up so that that's a nice area here to weld. And now I can just go back in and weld this up. Okay, so before I start welding this is how I got to this point, laying out these pieces. I'll show you the drill press, and I'll show you how I laid out the channel here for this notch. So I'm just marking this here. I'm coming in 1.25 inches off the end, making a mark. And then off of this back side here, away from the radius, I'm measuring that at 7/8 of an inch. That's my center point for my drill. Then all I'm doing is taking a center punch, punching that spot there, just like so. And I'm going over to drill press, and I'm going to drill these holes out. So this is a Bosch 1 3/8 diameter thin metal hole saw that I picked up at Menards, and that's how I'm drilling these holes here. It doesn't cut all the way through. I just tap it out with a hammer. The bit's kind of a shallow bit, so normally it would cut through this thickness of material, but seeing I'm hitting in this radius in here, it's not cutting all the way through, so I just tap it out with a hammer. So we're just going to knock that slug out with the hammer. Just breaks right off. So the next step I have to do is remove this little tab that's still left on here. And I'm going to do that with the 4-inch grinder with a cutoff blade in it. And we're just going to take it and cut it, try and get it as flush to the bottom of that hole as possible. So that's what it looks like when it's done. Just cut out. So your tube will fit right in there like so. So here I drilled a 9/16 hole in the main frame, and on the piece I drilled a 1/2 inch hole because that's the size of our bolt. That way this hole's a little bit bigger here, and it'll be, you know, the bolt, if it's off a little bit from one side to the other, the bolt will still go in. I also labeled them, and that way I get this piece back in the same spot where I marked the holes. That way everything will line up when I put this all back together at the end. Alright, so I'm going to tack these up. So all I'm doing is I'm tacking one on the bottom, one up here on the top, just to hold this pipe in place. And then I'm going to take it and lay it down and weld it solid. So I got the back side here clamped in place. Now I'm going to just tack that in too. All tacked in, ready to weld her up. So now I just take this whole piece here and I just lay it down, and I lay it whichever way I need to lay it to get in here and put welds on the inside, put welds on the top. That's how you do it. That way you're not trying to do a vertical up all the time. So you just flip it as many times as you need to flip it to weld her tight. Careful, don't hurt yourself. Alright, there you go. I did multiple passes on there just like I did on the main frame because there was quite a gap, so you have to do multiple passes to fill that all in. There's what the bottom looks like. Weld it all the way around, or as far as I can get it around. So we're going to go and weld all the rest of these up solid. I got 4 of these put together. I'll do the rest later. These are all welded up. I just wanted to put them together so you can see how this is going to look when it's done. your log is going to be sitting in the middle here. And then I'm going to come along with my big 20-inch chainsaw here. Okay? And I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to come right down here like this and saw right through the middle of all them logs. Bet you haven't seen one of these in a long time, huh? I can barely lift that thing. So that's how this is going to work. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to make the hitch. While this thing's still laying flat on the table, I want to get this hitch put together. So what I got here is I got an old piece of hitch. Okay, this was already had a hitch on it, coupler, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to put two pieces together. I got another short piece here on the bench. So when you're welding two pieces of heavy tube like this together, okay, you need to grind this. You need to put a nice chamfer on there so that you're almost all the way through the material, the thickness of the material. This is going to help you fill this all in with weld. That's going to be a structural weld. That will hold better than the material itself once you have that welded together correctly. But we're going to go all the way around it with weld. It will go together like this and then be welded solid. So what I did is I tacked this on all four corners. Okay? And now I'm gonna try and make sure that it's straight. And I'm gonna just tap it around to get it perfectly straight before I go putting heavy weld on there. So the weld I'm doing on here is gonna be the same as that 3-pass fillet weld we did earlier. So we got our first pass in there. Now I'm going to jack up the heat, and we're going to burn some nice big heavy welds all the way, both sides of that first weld. Getting your speed right, getting your heat right, getting good penetration, that's what's going to make a good weld. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Just got to be functional. Once I grind that off, you won't even be able to tell that was welded. Here you are. All ground back. No holes, no pits. One solid piece of steel again. Our next step is going to be putting this hitch and attaching it to the frame. So what I did is I cut this hole out here. I don't know if you can see that. So there I'll be able to weld there. I'll be able to weld all the way around this side, and up underneath here I'll be able to weld. So I'll have a full weld all the way around that tube once it's inserted in there. I also made myself a little block of wood here that's the same height as this channel, and I'm going to put that out here, and that'll assure that I have that tube sitting somewhat straight. Okay, that's not too bad. Pretty much set in stone. We're just going to weld her tight. That will not break. If that breaks, it's going to tear the metal around on this piece of channel. It will not break that weld. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some gussets here from right where I welded in the middle of this bar up to the corner. I'm going to add a gusset there and down here, and I'm also going to add some gussets on the inside here to tie this member to this main frame, because remember, this is just butt welded around here. Got a 3-pass fillet on the inside, but this here will be added strength so that this whole member is tied to this member, and that should hold well. I'm also going to weld a big plate on here for that crane to sit on, so that'll also add some strength to this front piece. But all your weight from the trailer being pulled is going to be on this front member. The other thing I could do is I could tie one together here between the two. I don't know if I'm going to do that yet, but we'll see. So I have my tube tacked into place here, cut it at an angle, and I incorporated my area here where I welded these two pieces together, so that'll help strengthen that area also. But what I ran into here is my distance here didn't come out right, so my pipe is sitting a little high here. So what I did is I cut 2 slots here along the side, and I'm just going to hammer this down until it matches my piece. Give you a little closer look at that. So this is sitting high, so I put 2 little cuts, one on each side here, and I'm just going to beat this down with a hammer till it's almost flush with this, and then I can weld that all solid. That turned out beautiful. Let's take a look. Yeah, I hammered this down. Now it's almost there. I can fill this all in with weld here now, and that'll be all one good solid weld. All right, I got this top piece welded up here. Give you a little closer look at what that looks like. So now we're just going to finish welding this up. I got the gussets tacked in here, and we're just going to weld it all solid. Got this all welded up here. Bring you in here, you can see the welds a little better. Okay, I had to do a little grinding on top here because we're going to weld a plate on there. Not the best welds you've ever seen, but as long as they hold, that's all I care about. How did Peter Mckinnon put that? It's okay if you suck, just do it. So nobody from downtown Amberg will ever see these welds. Once they're painted up, they'll look just fine. Got everything put together here. You can see how this looks now. They're not perfectly straight, but they're good enough. The next couple things we have to do is we have to put a plate on here to mount the crane to, and we have to add the axles to it. So right now I have this thing sitting on the axles, on the rod itself, just to see how balanced it is. So I can take and I can lift this front end here, no problem. One finger. Okay, so it's almost balanced. It's a little front heavy because I'm not quite in the center. I'm about 3 inches forward of the center of the trailer because I have a cross member there. But the other thing we have to add is we got to put the crane on here yet. So that crane is 100-some pounds. So I'm figuring about 125 pounds altogether is going to be on this hitch yet. That'll be 125 pounds of tongue weight on your back of your four-wheeler when it's empty. But once you add the logs, if you got a log sticking out 2 or 3 feet to the back, that's going to offset that weight. So you want to have this a little heavy on the front. So the extra 125 pounds on the front here is going to be what you need to balance this out a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to weld that plate on here. Just kind of line up the crane to see how it fits. We're also going to weld the axles on, and then I'll show you how that looks, how the tires are going to go on there in a little bit. All right, I got these axles tacked on here. The rod is still loose, it's just sitting in there. Got the plate welded on the front for the crane to sit on. What I wanted to show you is the axle pieces themselves. These are the little blocks that you saw being machined earlier in the video. So I did these all ahead of time, and I welded one up so you could see what that looks like, all welded together. These blocks are just sitting inside this channel, just to take up the space for the axles to go through and get welded on both sides. And this one, the middle one, gets the bushing put in. So I'll give you a little closer look here. Okay, you got the bushing in the middle, then you got the axles welded on the ends. So this goes on this other axle here. So this is going to sit on here like this here. See if I can get you a little better look at that. That's going to be on there like that there, and then the wheels are going to be able to pivot like this here. So if you're hitting a rock or you're going over a lump or even a log, that's going to pivot a little bit, give the trailer a little more stability. There'll be a washer and a pin right here to hold that on. This bushing has a head on it which will go up against this plate, and all the wheels are regular axle wheels for a trailer. I'm going to have to take this all apart so that I can flip it over on the table and weld the bottom side of all of this, and we'll be ready to put the axles on pretty quick here. I've got it all put together here. This thing here just spins. There's a bearing down in the bottom here, and then a little handle that locks it in place so it doesn't spin on you. So that's all together. The crane sits on top of here, gets bolted into this flange. I think I'm a little low. I think this is a little low. When I come in here with my chainsaw, I'm taking a risk of hitting that tire like that. I'd rather be able to come in and go straight down. So I might lift this up a little bit, a couple inches to clear that tire. Looks like about 6 inches or so. It needs to come up off the ground a little more. But I'm going to finish it the way it is, make sure it works, and then I can do that later. I can just raise that up 6 inches. I have the crane assembled, and we're just going to do a little lift here. This may sound a little weird, but I just happen to have a log sitting in my basement here for another project, and that's what we're going to lift into the trailer right now. I have a cordless or wireless remote control for the winch. Makes it go up and down. Let's see if we can lift this log in there. Once you get it so high, then you have to pump it up, and you can leave it up too. So that's how it works. Normally with a longer log, you'll be dragging it in from the back and then doing a second pick and picking it up and pulling it into the trailer. Most of my wood isn't this big. This is just a big chunk that I had laying around up there that I was going to use for a project. So I figured out my problem with the wheel height. When I originally sketched this up, these brackets were welded to the bottom of a tube. And seeing I couldn't find any tube, I ended up with channel. In my head, I decided to go and put the brackets up alongside the channel to make it stronger. Well, that changed my dimension by probably 4 inches or better. So even at my original dimensions, I was probably going to be 2 inches short. So I have to redo this. I have to take this bracket off and raise this up about good 6 inches. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this all back apart, and those are the mistakes you make. So we'll get her fixed, and we'll get some paint on it right away. Welcome back. A couple of things I added since we last spoke was I added the almost 6 inches to the wheels there. We were a little low. So now with that extra 6 inches in there above the axle, I just added some tubing in here. Now the chainsaw can come down and it's not going to hit these tires anymore. Plenty of room there. The other thing I added were these outriggers. Try and help this thing so it's a little more stable so it doesn't tip as I'm lifting the logs. So what we're going to do here is last year I had some trees cut. Show you a pile over here. So I had some trees cut down last fall, and they've been laying here over the winter. And we're going to see if we can winch these pieces up into the trailer. This one right here with the green stripe on it's a pretty big piece of log. I'm going to see if this can pull it up into the trailer one. There's a 15 amp fuse, blue, trying to pull that log. We'll try going up to a 25. .25 blue also. That log's too heavy for the winch. Alright, so we're going to try one of these smaller ones over here. Alright, it seems to be lifting that one okay. We're going to get some chains and hook up to it. Alright, so failure number 2. The winch is nowhere near strong enough to lift these logs. The trailer seems to be handling it fine. It doesn't seem to be tipping or anything. But the winch keeps blowing the fuses. I got a 25 amp fuse in there and it's still blowing it. Obviously it's not geared right to be pulling 3,000 pounds, which it's rated for. So I'm going to have to look for a different winch, bottom line. So I think these smaller ones, it'll winch up no problem, but these bigger pieces, it can't lift them, can't pull them up. So we're going to have to look for a much bigger winch for this thing. All right, we're going to try a little bit smaller piece, see how that does with that. For the smaller logs, I think it'll work. But for bigger logs, it struggled with this one right here. So that's not a very big log. And I think I'm better off with logging chains to choke the piece instead of that hook. That hook didn't seem to be working very well. This is hardwood. It doesn't want to dig in. So maybe a different kind of wood, it might work easier, but it really doesn't work well on this stuff that I'm lifting. This is a maple. So I'm going to show you how this cuts yet with the chainsaw. And I think as far as the trailer and the crane goes, I think everything's good there. It's strong enough. The winch is way underpowered. I'm going to have to definitely get a different winch. So we're going to cut this log so you can see how this works here. All right, we're gonna cut up this log now with the chainsaw, just so you can see how this works. All right, just like that. So now I got my 16-inch pieces. And the idea is these bigger chunks like I tried lifting earlier, once that's cut, then I can lift it with the crane and I can lift it right onto the log splitter. And then I don't have to lift it myself to get it on the log splitter. So each one of them pieces I'm cutting between my poles here. So each one of these pieces now is the perfect length for your wood burner. Okay? So I guess that's it. Trailer works fine. Everything works except that winch. We're going to have to get rid of that winch. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it and I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, all that good stuff. Alright, Mark Klein signing out from Amberg Acres. Wait, don't go yet. You still here? Oh yeah. Got a few things I need to tell you here. Once we got home, I went on the internet and I looked up winches with all the problems I was having with my winch up north. So the first thing I found out is that a winch is not intended to lift anything. Okay? So I didn't know that. If you want to lift something, you need to have a crane. The other thing I found out is that the 3,000 pounds, the way they're rated, it's intended to be pulling something basically like a boat onto a trailer or your four-wheeler out of a mud puddle. So they're only intended to run, if they're running at the full 3,000 pound capacity, they're only intended to run for a few seconds at that capacity. And the amperage goes so high, the amperage is well over 100 amps when it hits that higher load rating. And that's why I'm blowing the fuses. So one of the recommendations they make is to use more of a breaker type system than the fuses. So I picked up a couple of 50 amp breakers. They go right in the same fuse socket, and you can just reset them. But at any rate, the log that I was trying to pull was obviously exceeding the capacity and jacking up the amperage to blow those fuses. So I have to solve that problem, and one of the ways to solve that problem was a snatch block. The problem with a snatch block is you're decreasing the length of your cable by half. So it depends how far away you want to go to grab this log. The snatch block is supposed to, they claim, double the strength of your winch. So I will try that the next time I go up there. I will try a snatch block and see if that makes any kind of difference. And the breaker type fuse instead of an actual fuse. But I guess I was in shock that once this thing hits, gets up to its 3,000 pound capacity, that it's drawing that much amperage. There's only number 10 wires coming out of that winch. So that kind of has me worried. If it keeps running, if you don't have a fuse or you don't have a breaker in there, are you going to fry the whole system on the four-wheeler? I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that. So I thought I'd share that information with you that I found on the internet. There's a couple of websites where you can actually go on there and they have these calculators. If you know the weight of that log and you put in like 100% friction because there's no tires on it, and it'll kind of give you a number of what you're actually trying to pull. So I just threw 1,000 pounds in there with 100% friction, and it came up to like 2,000 pounds. So that means the amperage is way up there already, and that's why the fuses are blowing. So if I get to the point where I figure out what's really going on with the winches, and I come up with a solution to how to get these logs up on that trailer better, one of my ideas is to put a ramp on the back, which is obvious. It needs something to help get it up that 3 feet or whatever it is. So if I figure it out, I'll post another video. I just wanted to share that with you guys, not thinking I'm letting you hang that the thing doesn't work. It does work. It works for certain size logs other than that, but the bigger logs, it just can't. It's not going to be able to pull them. And I didn't know that. I thought 3,000 pounds was 3,000 pounds, and it's not. So the next option would be to go to a 12,000 pound winch, and at that point, then I have to put a separate battery, a deep cycle battery with over 600 something cranking amps. So that's another expense. And what they're telling me is that you'll maybe pull 4 or 5 logs up on the trailer and that battery will be dead and you'll have to recharge it. So that doesn't even sound like an option to me, you know. So I'll let you know. I'll post another video if I can get this to work.